Sidford has just signed in. Terry, are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can.
Great. Oh, I'm so glad to be here. So hello from Park City, Utah, and welcome to our second edition of Bringing Our World Together with the COVID-19. Today, we'll be talking about work and opportunity in the time of coronavirus. Who would have thought
And
that
this
we'd be
week
talking about this?
I know, but we have to. This week, we are thrilled to have as our special guest, Crystal Davis, who is an online expert business coach. She's based in Italy, but she has clients from all over the world. And she's going to shine some light on how to use now as an opportunity professionally. Crystal, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. What a beautiful series to be running at this time.
Thank you so much. We're so honored to have you. And why don't you just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so as earlier said, thank you for your beautiful intro. I'm an online business coach. So I help people to create their first thousands in online income. And I started that business in 2012 when I had been working in the corporate world for about 10 years before that, and then went through a huge health breakdown. I had surgery, and at the end of that, I kind of found just emotionally, I could not go back to work. I kind of wanted to vomit at the thought of going back to the office. And so lost my beautiful apartment in Melbourne, lost my job, obviously, sold all my designer suits to kind of get by and move back in with my mom. So horribly unemployable, became an entrepreneur. And then I built that business and used it to travel the world. So went to Italy, was the first country I ever went to outside of Australia. And then lived in London, Scotland, and just started ticking off my bucket list because I'd realized I kind of lost my values, lost my desire for life, set some crazy goals, like breaking a Guinness World Record on a rickshaw, which I'd never ridden before.
That's the first I've ever heard of that.
Absolutely crazy. But you know what was interesting about that was it didn't require anything special of me, and I just had to turn the pedals a lot of times. So learning those kind of lessons made my business really take off. And then I settled in my dream country of Italy, and I'm here now with my baby son and coaching people in their own online businesses. So that's me in a nutshell.
Great. Thanks again for being our guest. So this is a very special time for ourselves, for businesses. And my first question to you, being that you have been working online and helping businesses convert their business online and just create a new business online. You've been doing this for a long time. So what do businesses need to do, literally do, right now to adapt to the changes that COVID-19 has brought to the world of business, so that when we're past this, these businesses haven't been left behind and we haven't been left behind?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about this time is that everybody's now obviously in a position where they have to consider working online, like it's the only real option. And that was kind of always going to happen. There were predictions that by 2025, there will be, I think, 3 billion online entrepreneurs in the US alone. And that's kind of been shifted forward very quickly now, maybe by about a decade or so. So now it's just necessary to start looking at things with the eyes of an entrepreneur. So really looking for opportunity that's around you. I think it can be really crippling to be in a position where you're losing your job or you're threatened with not having an income, and that can make people freeze instead of seeing what is available at the moment. So the first thing that I kind of would recommend is just to sit back a little bit and ask some really simple questions like, what does the world genuinely need right now? What does the world need of me right now? What kind of gap can I fill? Where could I be of service and charge for that service? Instead of, oh my God, everything's kind of going to crap and I have no idea what the future is going to look like. I think it's a really good time to be creative. It's a really good opportunity to start looking at people who have been in this industry a little while and see how they kind of adapted early. So I think ideally, moving out of what it was going to be and hoping everything will get back to normal, which of course is a natural state of being, and start to just think, okay, if this was my fresh start, if this was something that like the world is just literally going to be a different place at the end of all of this, then how would I fit into that? And how can I see what's around me and how I can serve people better in this time than maybe I ever had before?
I think that's great, Crystal. I mean, I think now's the time because we have time. I mean, we're
Right.
at home right now, and now is the time. And if, you know, to think about it and calm down and be like, think outside the box, because you're not sure exactly what's going to happen. So I think that's great advice for so many people right now. Whether you have your job or not, life's going to be different, right?
Right.
Although I'm going to play devil's advocate, Terry, of course I agree with you, and I've certainly been taking this time to think and process and reflect and really figure out what I want for my future, both personally and professionally. But at the same time, Crystal, you mentioned fear, and that this is a time of real fear, right? Where there's the fear of death, or you know, of getting the coronavirus, right? There's fear of loss of jobs, loss of money, loss of just our routines, you know, the things that we felt made us who we are. So I guess my question is, how do we adapt our approach to life and business into a mindset that's not fear-based? You know, I mean, one of the thoughts I had was, well, with my services that I provide, you know, webinars on how to use on how to speak better using Zoom, right? Or speaker coaching, whatever. What my fear was, well, can people pay for my services now, right? So there's all these fears. How can we approach this in a way that's going to be beneficial and help us move forward?
I think that's it. There's a few layers to that. So the first thing that you're talking about there is kind of survival fear. Like, really, my security is threatened, my ability to provide for my family is threatened. That kind of fear is absolutely crippling. And it can be amplified in a time like this, where there's a genuine crisis, there's a lot of questions. So I think the first thing that I would do in that situation, feeling a crippling sense of impending doom and like this kind of thing, there's a question that I take my clients through, because this is common, even in the entrepreneur world. Most people coming here through crisis, the way that I did, lost all of my security, had no idea where money was going to come from, have to create it. Everything was new, didn't know about tech. So survival mode is, it can be honestly crippling. So I think the first question that I've learned to ask is, can I get through today? Like, are we okay today? Do we have food and shelter and like hot water today? Are we okay today? And if no, obviously we need to get help. And if I am okay today, well, then I can cut myself some slack from that panic and open myself up to thinking bigger, having an idea about, well, what could I potentially do now? Something I learned, which was beautiful, I had a birth coach when I was pregnant with my son, because I had a lot of fear around. Sorry?
Crystal, was that a breath coach for the people in the USA? Breath, right?
My accent, no. Birth.
Okay.
Birth
coach. Births,
yeah,
thank you.
Birth and postpartum coach, Nicole, she's absolutely fabulous. But I had a lot of fear around giving birth, because I'd seen my sister give birth before. So I had all these ideas of, oh my God, this is going to be horrendous, whatever. And she taught me something really kind of profound, which was women generally have trauma with birth when they feel they weren't given a choice. That's where trauma genuinely comes from, is we experience something maybe unexpected or whatever, and we feel we weren't given a choice. And I think that that's very relevant right now. That's staying in our house.
Good point.
To go for a walk. And so what I learned through that process was the way that I view whether or not I had a choice directly relates to how I feel about the situation and whether I'm going to be able to come out of this okay. So in terms of a mindset that's not so fear-based, there's a lot we do have choice around right now. We can even see this choice to stay home, which can be kind of suffocating, as a genuine desire to help others, and I want to do this well, and that kind of stuff. So I think those couple of questions, just thinking about choice, And then also fear is kind of the daily life of an entrepreneur. We experience risk. We've let go of traditional security, I guess, where everything's on us. Like, yeah, it's great because we can work whatever hours we want, but also we're completely responsible for the outcome.
Right.
And that's, you know, like that's a level of pressure that is just another thing. So sinking into this feeling like I don't know what the world is going to do. I don't trust the world maybe right now. I don't trust the media maybe right now, but I trust me, and I know I'm going to get through this. I know that I've got the skills and the capabilities to bring myself through this, to bring my family through this. So leading with those kind of things is what I would encourage people to be thinking about at the moment.
Crystal, it's such a great point. It really is. And I've been talking to a lot of people about how we can't change a lot of things. There's some things that we can't change in life and right now, but that you have to kind of hold on to something bigger, that there is something better that can come out of all this. And it's that hope that we can survive, even though we don't know what it's going to look like. And, it's fighting. I mean, I've had to do it too, just fight when I have those days where things don't look good and I'm not happy and I'm frustrated with it, then I just fight for that positive feeling or mindset. And because we can choose to do that. And it's our hope to getting out of this, surviving it, and maybe even thriving right after all of this.
Absolutely.
And I want to ask you something that's completely related. Crystal, I know you have a young son, and I have two young children. Mine are 2 and 5. And one of our audience members wrote in actually and asked a specific question related to this. So with young children, but with children in general, it's very different to be an entrepreneur from home when you have your children at home, right? My children literally do not let me get anything done. And that's very frustrating. It's very bad for me mentally because when I'm not productive, I get frustrated, and that leads to anger, and it's this kind of, bad downward spiral, right? But one of our viewers wrote in and said, her name's Janelle from Florence, and she asked, do you have any advice on how to carve out space for yourself, both physical and head space, when you need both work time and personal time, and you're sharing every second of every day with family, and you have children around who need you? So how have you balanced this since you work 100% from home?
I don't know if anybody will ever do this perfectly. Like, it is really challenging. My son is similar. He wants me all the time. And if he knows I've got something to do, my gosh, like it'll just be drama city, right? So I guess one of the things that I have really done during this period is make a space. I still have a digital nomad mindset, right? I'll just work from anywhere, which is what I've always done. I'll just sit on the couch, I'll do whatever. Now I've made my office space non-negotiable, and it's only my office space. But I'm like everybody, I'm working when my kids are asleep. I'm trying to make that really minimal and prioritize. I know I've had to rearrange my business a little bit to let go of a whole bunch of stuff that just takes too much time, and focus in on one thing that I can do well in this time. So I think it's a bit of rearranging and cutting yourself a bit of slack in terms of it is what it is, and it may be this way for some time. So how can we as individuals kind of just do the best we can and take that pressure off? I know as a mother, you want to be everything to everybody all the time, and you want to do it all well. But what I kind of realized was I can't be half present for my son all day, every day. And if I do it for a day, I feel awful because I know I haven't given my full attention to my work. I certainly haven't given my full attention to my son, and that just like behavioral stuff comes out of that, and it's worse than, So I've learned to do it in very small windows of time. But that's also something I was doing before. As soon as my son was born, I tried to get my work done in 30 minutes a day, and that's definitely possible. But it requires a bit of, strict to-do lists. One of the best things that I kind of found in that time was pick 2 or 3 major things to do in a day, maximum, and let the rest go and have a time to do that. So that way it's like you're off the hook a little bit. I think that pressure to be the perfect mum, the perfect business owner, be making a lot of money, pivoting, you know, in the online world at the moment, pivot is this big word where it's a lot of pressure for people to suddenly be great and suddenly be leading. And I think that can really contribute to a bit of the panic at the moment of like, I'm not succeeding with anything, and that's a terrible feeling. Right. So, you know, reducing the pressure on all the fronts. And I think it's a beautiful time to be with children. My son, everything is so basic and so simple and so straightforward. When I'm able to be in the moment with him, my life is also that way. And I think that's a big relief from the complication of the media and the things that we're hearing at the moment. So to wrap it up, I have a separate workspace. My son doesn't come into that workspace. I only work in that workspace now, and I just do it in very short windows. And the rest of the time, I'm off the hook.
Crystal, I also again want to say how wonderful that comment is, because I do, whenever I get stressed, I think about I could have small children at home, and right now I don't. And I'm like, Terry, you know, come on, like really. And, you know, I do think we need to be kind to ourselves and really be in that present time, I think was a huge piece, that just take one section, one moment at a time and be kind, you know, and let the rest go. I just love that. So thank you for sharing that, for all those. You know, we just canceled schools for the rest of the year here too. Now we're with you.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear from viewers right now. Please comment below. Maybe you have your own solutions that have really worked for you regarding work-life balance right now from home. So please feel free to share those below. I personally would love to learn from you. So
me too.
We have one, we actually have a really fabulous question that came last week in our live session. It's from Julia Curtis, who lives in Venice. And I wanted to ask this to you, Crystal, since you live in Italy. Italy, as you know, is so heavily reliant on tourism, which would not come back quickly regardless of when Italy reopens, right? It will take months, if not, you know, hopefully not a year, but it will take a long time for tourism to come back, and Italy's not open yet. So since the world economy will never be the same, is there a way to modify our business models to adapt, especially working in Italy where tourism is huge? Do you have any, you know, ideas on that?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that can be done. Tourism is obviously a very broad term for a whole range of kind of jobs and things that can be provided. Services, people doing all kinds of different things. I think obviously it's really important to start looking in a global sense at like, how can you be providing services, not just now. I mean, this probably is not going to be the last ever crisis, and thank goodness we have technology. I do think Italy has an opportunity to catch up with some of that technology. Certainly living in the south of Italy where I am, businesses don't have websites, and you know, their social media is not, you know, like it's really intense. Florence is different. Florence is my dream. But you know, there still is a huge percentage of businesses in Italy who don't prioritize online work at all. And now that's going to have to change. But I think there's some really easy ways that can be addressed at the moment. I think the first thing is, Italy is always going to be a dream. And one of the things, I've got a client who has a program about purchasing property in Italy. She's like a property coach, and her business is thriving at the moment rather than decreasing, because people are stuck at home. They are stuck in maybe apartments or places or towns that they would not choose to be in lockdown in. You know, it's not the dream. And they're sitting there thinking, wow, I would love to be in my villa in Tuscany. So that's what people are looking at. So there are going to be industries in tourism so if there are some businesses at the moment thinking, how can we kind of shift here, piggybacking on the back of something like that, where people are not just going to be unconsciously going for a trip. I don't think that will be the case anymore. Certainly the digital nomad thing, I think, is going to calm down quite a bit now, of people being much more conscious about how they're traveling, how they're interacting with others. You know, things like, what is the medical service like? What's my insurance like? And yeah, where do I want to be in lockdown if this ever happens again? So businesses that can talk to that. Also, the aspirational part of Italy is always going to win out. People are still dreaming about it. I run communities of travelers. They're all still talking about Italy, you know. So
I think that'll always be the case.
It'll always
People always want to come visit Italy. Yes.
Yeah,
yes. I don't think they have anything to worry about after this is over with that. But it is true. I also think, you know, a lot of businesses are creating a backup plan. So, you know, plan A and then plan B after this, which what do you, Crystal, what do you say to people that have not had a business on, you know, they have business offline and they have to have that plan B to do it maybe online? You know, what do you suggest, or, you know, what steps do they take?
Well, online business is fabulous because it's kind of infinite. You can fill any gap, which is, it can be both positive and negative. I call it the challenges of infinite choice. When you can choose anything, what do you choose? And what you would choose is to be serving people who are in a position to invest. So at the moment, I always encourage people to serve online entrepreneurs, because honestly, we're still operating like normal, if not things have escalated, because people want the services of people who are actually, everyone's at home doing things, buying things, investing in things. So I would
absolutely. Terry and I have been saying we're busier than we usually are now. That, now that we're in this coronavirus moment, it's very strange. We didn't expect it.
No. And you have an audience. You have almost 100% audience right now, online.
Audience, literally. Yeah. So I think what can happen here is just thinking about how your offline skills can be transferable in a creative way. I remember I had one of my favorite clients, Sophie, is an offline, very successful psychologist. And she tried to bring that online, but it just kind of wasn't working. She was targeting corporate people who were still, back then, investing offline, not online, which is a difficult sell, you know. And we moved that to, she started helping empathic online entrepreneurs start their own businesses, people who did want that kind of really caring, supportive experience with somebody. So her psychology degree helped her create that, but it was kind of just a shift in mindset around, who can I be helping with the skills that I have? And any skill, if you're doing anything offline, there is a way that you can bring that online, just by thinking, well, who would invest and what would they need from me? And back to those questions around, what does the world need and what does the world need from me? That makes it kind of really, really simple. And then you just go out there and you create a service and you charge for that service. And that's really the quickest way. You can do that in a day. You could do that on this live. You know, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I've had this idea, package it up, put a price on it, and tell people you're selling it. That's as hard as and easy. And as easy as
I love that.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's, you know, that's exciting. I mean, if we think of it that way, right? So there's opportunity in the unknown, and you never know what you're capable of until you're pushed to really be faced up against it. And that's where we're at. So look at this as maybe a new opportunity for you to do something online, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you see any other opportunities right now, Crystal? I mean, this is such a particular time, right? A peculiar time. Do you see other opportunities that we can all take professionally and personally? But you know, today is more about work and opportunity. So
yeah, there are. I mean, just trying to look at things logically, when we look around at how the world is truly changing, there are going to be things where, you know, the food industry is going to change, for example, where people are going, for a period of time, especially, they're going to want delivery rather than eating out. There's going to be a whole shift in the way that restaurants work. Things like, how are people supporting the health industries, which are the main industry that everybody needs to be supporting right now to move through this well. There's lots of gaps opening up in terms of homeschooling, positive parenting, like a lot of things that we've mentioned on here that people are genuinely struggling with. So I think the way to find that is like literally you can just scroll through your Facebook feed, see what people are saying is tough right now, and you can fill that gap. And I think that's what's beautiful about online entrepreneurship, when you start to look at things with those eyes of opportunity and just like, what do people keep saying? What do I keep seeing here is really tough for people? You're going to be seeing that with your lens, the lens of your experience, your personality, the gap you kind of feel naturally in the world. And so there's opportunity literally everywhere. And not just now, it's always like this, but I guess if you're at home, you have more time to be on the internet. You have more time to just kind of step outside the box that you thought was secure before and play around with this. Then there's stuff everywhere. But yeah, definitely medical staff, anybody supporting health professionals to move into online work. It's just endless. We don't really know what everything will look like, but those things are very obvious to me at the moment. Positive parenting and homeschooling, I think, are going to go through the roof. I'm doing 2 courses right now on those subjects. So anybody doing that, Elia, your skills. I mean, how many people are doing video now or want to do video and like know that their audience is sitting at home? I mean, this is your time.
I know. I've literally built a course this week on a live. It's basically how to soft skills, body language, and communication techniques for live video. And I've already sold it to 2 corporations that I'll be starting next week doing it. But I want to make a webinar as well for private clients, because there's so many of us out there who have not ever worked with Zoom and Microsoft Teams. So that will be coming up very soon. Thank you.
I'm excited about that.
But
yeah, again, on that subject, there's a lot of industries that are going to be getting back to work. So corporations, if you can consult on an element of recovery, I've got one client who's doing hotel recovery. I've got another client who's doing remote working consultancy, certification programs on how to roll out like remote work into corporations. This kind of stuff is going to be massive. So any ideas like that, go for it.
So great. I just had, there was somebody that just sent a message about, he's a musician in a band, and you know how his business has gone downhill over this, but there are some incredible things happening online for musicians, and I will send a message to you on that offline. But there, I don't know if any of you have seen any of the big musicians playing from their homes. It's with their kids running by. It's so intimate and almost better than if I saw them live, you know, in a concert. So I do think the key word that is opportunity. There's lots of opportunity, but also stay ahead of it. Like you said, Crystal, right? Be prepared. You know, what's the need going to be? And what can you give for your services?
Yes, and one of the things that I would love to mention is kind of, this is an opportunity to think a little bit bigger than ourselves. Something that really helped me through this is, you know, as a sole trader, normally we sit here thinking, okay, what do I need to sell? What are my own personal goals? And as I watched my community lose their jobs, experience, you know, fear and loss and this kind of thing, I actually shifted my business model to think, well, if I was going to give some jobs to some people I really care about, how would I do that? How would I build a layer into my business where I could do that? So I think those of us who are well and healthy, and thankfully all our family and friends are well and healthy, and I'm thankfully in that boat, and also have a way to think outside the square about how I can support people. I think that's a beautiful focus. I think that's so much more of service to the world at this time than obsessively watching the media, seeing the death toll. You know, that stuff is a rabbit hole that, like, my anxiety goes through the roof when I read that stuff every day. Versus when I'm thinking, okay, how many people can I genuinely give a job to? Could I create a layer here where people are taking my sales calls? Or, you know, how can I help my community in this time? Is a really great way to shift that panic to something that's going to pay off, like short-term and long-term, for more than just you.
That's amazing, Crystal.
So good.
That's absolutely the most beautiful advice, and that can absolutely be related to the personal as well. I mean, I know because we're in quarantine, it's very hard to help other people right now, but we want to. And with my children, I've thought I would like to be able to show them that this is a time that, because we are healthy, because we are able to actually do some good right now, how can we? So I mean, we've done what we can. We've brought cookies to the old lady down the street, and tried to clean up her yard a little bit. But again, because we're in quarantine, we can't do much. But it made us feel so good. It was the first time in weeks that I actually felt I'd been of value to someone else. And it lifted my spirits for days, and my kids were proud. The next time they saw the old lady, they said, "How are the cookies?" And they were really happy. It gave us all a sense of value, right? And worth. And I think that's just it's amazing that you did that in this time.
And this is the time we can all come together as, like we said, as countries and as a world, especially because we can connect virtually and online. There's, even if you're an entrepreneur, you want to recreate yourself, or you want to do something good and make a difference, now is an opportunity more than any other time. And so there's something good that can come out of this. And I think that's what we're trying to shine a light on for everyone, that there's hope, there's opportunity, and you can recreate yourself here in some form or fashion.
Terry, I just got a question. Oh, I'm sorry, Crystal, please.
No, it's okay. I was just going to add something very quickly around your question earlier around people with fears around charging at this time because of that desire to be altruistic and to support the community. And I think we can do both. And I think that's important to talk about, is that, we can be charging for services. We can be running businesses. And in fact, because many of us think, oh my God, how can I ask someone to pay me when so many people are in desperate situation? And I think what's great there is, if you are running a business or want to run a business, to make a decision that you will help people for free in one way, and you will charge for something as well. And then there's both those options that you can confidently put yourself into without thinking, oh my God, I'm just not helping anybody, or I'm doing everything for free. So anybody who has those fears, I mean, both are possible. And by having that, I think that we're keeping the economy going, but we're also helping our communities and our neighbors and fulfilling that need to be a good person in this time, as well as somebody who's making money and supporting their own family.
Good point. Great point.
And it's so important, I think, to support the local right now. One of my friends, Alicia, said that she's obsessed. She will not go to big grocery stores right now. She's only going to the little small, fruit vendors and vegetable vendors that there are here, where the quality of food is so much better anyway. But she said, I just feel for all of these people, and I refuse to go to big supermarket. So it's just another example of a way that we can all just help each other out, right?
Yes, support the locals for sure.
Absolutely. I want to take this question. Actually, Terry, I'd like to ask you this first, because we got a question from a viewer, who said, as a freelancer, a small business owner, I often feel the pressure to say yes, even when I want to say no. I had recently been working on my no, but this period now makes me feel like I have to say yes again. Both for fear for future employment, but also because turning people down in this moment feels like I'm not a team player in a difficult time. So how to find that balance? And this is a listener in Italy, and this is exactly what we were kind of just talking about. So Terry, what would you, as a life coach, what kind of advice would you give for this?
First of all, when you say no, you're saying yes to something else. When you're saying yes, you're saying sometimes no to something else. And right now, as a business owner, and if you're concerned about your business, it is more challenging to say no. But you have to be smart right now and stand up for what you know you need to do. You can say it in a very honest and kind way, where they understand where you're coming from. If you say no without any explanation, then they could be offended and not understand. But if you come from a compassionate place that, you're just setting your boundaries, and this is important to me, or my integrity, and I'm trying to be honest with you, then they'll get that most of the time, 9 out of 10 times. So yes, keep practicing on what you want to say no to, and what you want to say yes to. And being able to say that is a really important skill to learn, especially in business. You don't want to give away everything, just like Crystal said. And right now you're like, I want your business, so I'll give you 50% off or whatever.
Right.
Be smart about it, think about it, and I hope that's helpful information.
That's amazing. Crystal, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think burnout is a real thing. And burnout happens when we over-obligate, when we do too many things that we don't truly want to do, because we all have enough energy to do all the things we want to do all the time, the things we truly love. It's like you can do that all day long. You get energy from it. But when we're saying yes to things that are just an obligation and we don't truly align with that, then what happens is we tend to just fizzle out, or like want to sleep all day, and it's not, so I think balancing the need to create income with what we truly want to be and do, and the place we want to take in the world is really, really important. Because if we could just keep saying yes to everything that we don't want to do, that burnout, I mean, that's a real thing. You just won't be able to say yes to anything. So I think you can do it, like Terry's saying, with loving boundaries and just saying no in a really kind way, and having explanation around that, and having transparency, I think, is something that's really important to authenticity and people feeling heard and supported. But everybody's first, priority needs to be them, their health, their well-being, and especially in this time right now, mental health, mental well-being is really vital. So yeah, it's going to be a balancing act, but I think, putting yourself and your family first is really where we need to be.
Absolutely.
And that's really also in theme with kind of the feeling, not only of the moment, but I would say in the past few years, it's something I talk about a lot with my clients, is true authenticity, because people connect to your messes, not your successes. Strangely, the more you talk about the great things you've done, it's by this amazing speaker coach. God, I can't remember his name right now, John something, but it's brilliant, because you can talk about all the amazing things you've done, all your successes, but what people, their hearts connect to is when you talk about your failures, right? The times you made a mess. And having your child walk into your Zoom call or your Facebook Live, or the dog literally knocking on the door with his paws. This has happened so many times with my clients this week. And it just brings this amazing humanity to it, which is so right now, because we are all struggling in so many different ways just to get through every day, and to get, as you said, Crystal, 30 minutes of something done, 3 things in one day done, right? And if we are all a little more forgiving because the dog ran in, or my baby, or whatever it is, it makes our interactions and our work a lot easier, and again, just more human and authentic. And I've actually enjoyed that about coronavirus, because everyone's allowing it now,
It's not even a big deal. It really isn't. It's to be expected. I know that this conversation could go on for hours. It's been incredible. And I would love for both of you to just, Crystal, first, to just give, if you're to tell, if you want some golden nugget to wrap all this up, maybe some words of wisdom for all of us in the United States and in Italy, whoever else is tuning in. Please let us know what that would be, and then we'll kind of, and then if we have any other questions that needed to be, that we've forgotten about, we will definitely answer them offline.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was a beautiful chat. I'm so glad you're doing this series, because people are feeling quite alone. And so to anybody who is, not in the best case scenario, where they're not, in a safe place, or they don't have the comforts that they need, or they're really, really in a bad way, my heart goes out to you completely. And I would also say to anybody that's not in that circumstance, that now's the time to back yourself. You've literally got nothing to lose, to have a crack at what you've always wanted to do. The thing that intuitive download you've had, that, oh my God, I could be great at that. Now is the time, because if it doesn't work out, what does it matter? You're stuck at home. Things are going to change. You don't know what's coming up. So back yourself, believe in yourself. Now be the person that you always dreamed you were going to be one day. Or, those little things that sit under there. You know, that thing that caused me to have surgery in 2012 was completely ignoring the person that I truly was. And I think being able to examine that in this time is one thing, and that's great, but also going that next level, be that, you know, allow yourself to have that, try new things, surround yourself with people that are doing the things that you've always dreamed. I think, you know, virtually, you know, get on Facebook, follow people who are doing these things, because anything's possible. And especially right now, everything's up for the chance. So that's what I'd love to leave people with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything's possible. That's what I heard. Anything is possible right now. And how do we get a hold of you, Crystal? Or how did the audience get a hold of you?
You can get me, I think I'm tagged in this video, but you can also have a free training at the moment that can show you how to take those first steps in your online business, which is on highincomedigitalnomad.com. I think I'll drop the link somewhere. So perfect. All my things link to each other, so just find
Great. Great. Thank you for joining us today. And I think your information was invaluable for our audience.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Elia, you want to say before we introduce what we're going to be talking about next week?
Yes, just that we did get so many comments and questions that we couldn't tackle. So if you have any that we didn't tackle today, please write them to us right down below. And all of us will respond to you as soon as we can. Thank you so much. And yes, Terry, tell them all about next week.
Next week, our guest is Lonnie Main, and he is an internationally recognized keynote speaker, author, and executive consultant. He is the founder and CEO of Red Shoes Living. I can't wait to have him as our guest. He's going to inspire you to hang in there and get excited about the future. He's an amazing speaker, and he inspires people all over the world. So please tune in next week, same times, 1 o'clock in Mountain Standard Time, United States, and 9 o'clock p.m. Italy, right? Correct.
And the theme for next week is igniting human potential when faced with unprecedented times. So it's going to be really an amazing session. So please join us next week.
Thank
Crystal,
you so much.
Thank you again. Crystal Davis, online business expert. Check her out at highincomedigitalnomad.com/home. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Ciao.
you.
Ciao. Buonanotte.
Buonanotte.